Good afternoon, everyone. I'm James Tetreault with your West Ag Grain Market update for October 25th, 2018. Well, we finally had a good week for soybean harvest, and by the looks of it, we're somewhere around 75% completed on beans, with a good chunk of growers switching over to corn. It's been a logjam the last 2 weeks for soybeans that are being delivered to the end user, as yields are about 10 to 15% better than expected in most cases. And couple that with the trade wanting to move almost every bushel of bean out of the province in a month's time doesn't help either. We expected delays like this before harvest started up. However, I don't think anyone would have thought it would have been this bad. But we are working through the glut, and by this time next week, trucks and movement will be a non-concern, I hope. In the grain markets today, all three commodities fell sharply, mostly due to mounting harvest pressure across North America. And not only are we seeing futures drop, but we are also seeing local basis levels dwindle as well. One of the main reasons we are seeing local corn basis drop is due to the high levels of vomitoxin. We have seen almost every elevator in Ontario come out and say that they will be testing almost every load that shows up on their scale and apply discounts if vom levels are higher than 3 parts per million. One of the biggest reasons we are seeing the change from 2016's and discounts being applied this year at local elevators, and not just a simple drop in the basis values, is that most elevators took that approach in 2016 only to get hit with major discounts once they went to unload all of that corn out of the elevator and had no way of recouping that cost. So we are seeing more elevators taking an end user approach this year and discounting the corn at the scale. So this is a very frustrating issue for everyone involved, and no one enjoys having to deal with this type of quality issue. So how did we end up here, and what can we do to mitigate financial losses? So let's start with the Ministry of Agriculture and Food's annual corn quality survey, which tests over 100 corn fields across Ontario. And what they found back in September was that 25% of the corn crop was 5 parts per million or higher, and that is the worst survey on record. The second worst year was back in 2016 when VOM was a big issue as well, but that survey only had 8% of the crop at 5 parts per million or higher. So we are going to see an even larger issue with VOM this year than we did back in 2016. So why are we seeing such a high VOM level this year? If we go back to early July, we can all agree that we were begging for a rain to get this corn crop in gear, and the corn was looking a bit rough. Then about mid to late July during tasseling, we started to get rain, but not only did we get the rain, almost every other day for about a month, we were also hit with very high humidity levels for that same time frame. And those two combined during tasseling creates a high dawn environment. Most growers before the rain made the economic decision not to spray the corn with a fungicide, and so that created some of the high levels we are seeing here this year. So what are some of the things that we can do as a producer to mitigate VOM levels next year? One thing is corn hybrid selection. Your seed dealer should absolutely know which hybrids are more tolerant to VOM than others. Second, if you are planning to spray a fungicide, remember that there are only 2 fungicides registered in corn that will suppress or control gibberella or VOM, and those are Proline and Caramba. Third, planting date is key. Earlier planting could move tasseling dates sooner before humidity levels start. 4, harvest early to reduce the spread of the disease. And 5, if you do store grain at your own elevator, please dry it down to roughly 14.5% to reduce the risk of hot spots. Fines are also a bad host for VOM, so once you have loaded all of your bins, core them immediately, since most fines do fall into the middle of the bin, and get that corn on a truck and out of your bin. So what is crop insurance doing to help? So we are suggesting you to call Agricor immediately to report any damage. An adjuster will contact you within 48 hours to start an assessment. Your adjuster will work with you through the claims to process and assess the marketability of your crop, proof of rejections, which should be in writing and contain your name, elevator, or dealer name, and why your crop was rejected. You'll need at least 3 of those letters. The results of dawn level tests taken before or at harvest, especially if you are storing crop on farm. And lastly, destruction of any crop. So Agricor may write off or assign a zero yield or an unmarketable crop affected by DON upon proof of 3 letters of rejection. Your final yield then will be reduced to exclude corn that was written off and destroyed. And if your final yield is below your guarantee, you may receive a payment. Please note that discounted prices do not affect how your yield is reduced. So we will attach a link so everyone can view the Agricor sheet. Finally, these markets do take time to work themselves out. If you have high varm corn in the bin, hold on to it until a market does present itself. Do not mix good corn with bad corn in the same bin. Keep them separate, as you just turn every good bushel into a bad bushel. And also, we are working on high vom level homes, and if we can find anywhere that will take high level voms, we will let you guys know. So that's all I have for you folks today. Have a safe harvest. I'm James Tetreault, keeping the swag in ag.